on the right. Meanwhile, fireb0rn was the #1 seed entering the tournament with the official world record for this category. That time is a 33:24. So we will see if fireb0rn puts on a show like that for us. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one for CakeSauce. The 330 separation between the BBs, only tells half the story. fireb0rn definitely going to be one of the best and most consistent runners, so really has to pray for probably a big mistake on the left. But that still doesn't mean that this is going to be a boring race, because we are all on the lookout to see CakeSauce get another PB during this. Plenty of other exciting things that could happen later in the run. A lot of variants, especially as we get into the late game boss fights. Right here, pretty by the books opening. Actually, the runners are still extremely close after King's Pass. I think because CakeSauce got a soft fall and fireb0rn didn't. Soft fall in King's Pass originally was considered RNG. And then there are a number of techniques developed for it. And finally, a few months ago, there's discovered this little technique where you double back after a short hop, and then that puts you maybe about 0.2 seconds behind going straight forward. But it almost always skips the really long hard fall animation. So that sort of gives you a flavor of what this split really involves. Almost every room has been optimized to within a tenth of a second. And, runners put a lot of thought, usually maybe a lot more thought than is due, into getting every single one of those optimizations. So yeah, we saw the Aspid Arena, the first bit of combat in the game, can actually be a really stressful choke point, because the Aspid AI means that they can really float away from you if you don't kill them as quickly as possible. It does look like CakeSauce has slightly better loads than fireb0rn. I think they're still fairly close together. Maybe CakeSauce is a little... No, fireb0rn is actually 3 seconds behind. So, really just goes to show this early split is just a tiny bit of unpredictability in it. So, yeah, coming up on False Night here. If you've played Hollow Knight, you probably know, or otherwise can tell, False Night is not much of a challenge. Yeah, actually, False Night is a little harder. You actually go for the full kill, but in this category, we don't need to do that. That would only be worth 200 Geo and a fairly useless key. We have faster methods of Geo collection, so you just have to knock False Knight over once, he throws a temper, and that hidden shortcut on the left breaks open. Alright, so a 35 and a 38 VS. And now we'll be moving into the kind of opening up the movement a little as far as the run goes. Vengeful Spirit, I think casually you would think of it as a combat item, but it really is just as many uses as a movement item in the early game. We're going to be using it 3 times in Green Path to get through places where you would otherwise need a dash or another movement item. and really save a lot of time. So we see CakeSauce getting a little trolled by the boulder there. It is 50% chance for it to spit out an enemy you can farm soul on. Uncapped for the number of times it can choose not to spit an item you can farm soul on. Which does make that the early RNG choke points. You can lose several seconds there if you get an exceptionally bad pattern. Yep, so farming soul in this room, always a little annoying, but it is necessary to kill this boulder and then do the fireball skip immediately afterwards. CakeSauce doing a little pogo on that boulder. Normally what you'll see people do when it gets in the way is you can actually up-slash it, and it'll go right over your head, and you can hit it twice that way without losing time. But yeah, so CakeSauce definitely had a bit of trouble on the way from Vengeful Spirit to Green Path. So this is going to give fireb0rn a bit of a lead now. I want to say maybe around 7 seconds or so. No, actually it's a bit more than that. It's almost 10. Yep, so the fireball skip CakeSauce just did is the most important one in the run. There is an enemy in the room you can pogo if you fail it, but luring the enemy over takes several seconds, usually on the order of 20 or more, which is really bad in a speedrun of this length. Yeah, if you're used to watching hour-long speedruns or longer, you know, all the squibbling over tenths of seconds and, you know, 2 or 3 seconds in a room, it may seem like, yeah, not that much, but this is going to end up being less than 40 minutes on the in-game timer, or loadless timer, which means every second really does matter. fireb0rn just killing the Vengefly there. CakeSauce about to do the same. Ooh, CakeSauce failing the quick kill. Luckily, he actually didn't get that last nail hit off, because there would have been a chance for him to soft lock during the Vengefly King's scream animation. If he starts to scream and you kill him before you get stunned, you can end up in a state where you'll never be unstunned, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, definitely have to be watching CakeSauce's side here on 2 HP going into Hornet. Hornet usually not a boss fight you associate with deaths in this category, but stuff can get out of hand here sometimes, and it's really hard to convince yourself to heal here. Oh, looks like CakeSauce actually did heal coming in, maybe. But either way, if you die to Hornet, as we saw in the race yesterday, it is a 3 to 4 minute time loss getting back here. Yep, so Mothwing Cloak, not a required item, but incredibly useful for the run. It saves a substantial amount of time in almost every room. Dash movement is simply that much faster than walking, and so that entire detour to Green Path repays itself in just a few minutes, really. Now, we have to get the actually mandatory item, which is Mantis Claw. You can do a lot of exploration in the first maybe 4 areas or so, just by walking around. But once you want to get to the late game, you do absolutely need the wall jump ability to do anything. So, first off, in this room fireb0rn is in right now, we're going to see Explosion Pogo. This lets us... Oh! fireb0rn going for very precise and impressive tech strategy that was discovered not too long ago for Explosion Pogo that saves maybe 0.1 or 0.2 seconds, but he does fail it. Unfortunately, that strategy takes... or failing Explosion Pogo costs around 8 seconds to reset. But yet, fireb0rn gets an incredibly clean Mantis Pogo shortly afterwards, with just 2 hits on the Mantises, so really nice to see. CakeSauce, meanwhile, getting his Explosion Pogo first try and doing a slightly safer version of fireb0rn's Mantis Pogo, also gets a very clean ride up. So on both sides, we have really nice looking geo counts. Should be no problems here. The reason why we have routed so much geo into the early game is to buy a damage boosting charm at the one point in the game when doing so is convenient. Going to be buying Shaman Stone from Salubra. It's going to take maybe another 10 to 12 seconds to actually get through the shop menu and buy it, but it's going to very easily pay for itself just by massively speeding up boss fights. And of course, Shaman Stone isn't the only reason why we're coming over here. Also, do have to kill Grow's mother to get access to this tiny corner which has Sly, the other main shop. We'll be rescuing him so we can buy Lantern later and get into Crystal Peak by using the toll in the dark room. Yeah, very, very nice cleanup on fireb0rn's side. The Gruz spawns off of Gruz mother are completely random, so the way you'll see our runners handle it is they're going to hold on to enough soul to cast 2 fireballs, then jump high and try and clear off the top wave of Gruzes before they can float off to the ceiling. So if they get really high up, you could lose a lot of time trying to track them down. Oh no! fireb0rn forgot to bench. This is a huge lead change. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of rust, because I know a few things have kept fireb0rn from running recently. But that will give CakeSauce, I want to say, maybe around a 20-second lead. It isn't too terribly much, because keep in mind, fireb0rn is still 10 seconds behind CakeSauce on the loadless timer, so he does have a stored up advantage there. But that is definitely a huge swing in the race. So we'll see what CakeSauce does with this new lead. Right now, have to cross over Blue Lake in order to enter City of Tears from the right side, and also pick up the Dream Nail. Ultimately, our goal in the next next 8 minutes or so is going to be to farm 2,300 Geo out of City of Tears, and then also kill Lurian as our first streamer. So that's why we're making this detour to get Dreamnail first. But yeah, fireb0rn didn't equip Shaman Stone when he was in Ancestral Mound, and he didn't stop at a bench along the way. With any luck, he will realize that he doesn't have Shaman Stone in the second room of City of Tears, and then equip it on the King Station bench. I think it's very unlikely that we see him get much further. But yeah, chat confirming that the runners are 10 seconds apart, so that one little slip up has put this extremely close. Yep. The platforms here on the way to Dreamnail are completely consistent. There are a few different routes that have been planned through them. You see fireb0rn doing one of the most precise ones. This is saves about a second over the other safer route. But ultimately, really not too much variation on the way to Dreamnail. We saw CakeSauce pause and pause at the seer. That lets you regain control early and just barely have enough of a window to dash out of the room. As we see fireb0rn unpaused a little too later, had his mashes on dash were a bit too slow, so he wasn't able to escape. So he had to deal with this. And he does remember to bench. He had to deal with the recovery animation in Seer's room. But yeah, it is good to remember Shaman Stone for this room CakeSauce is in right now. You do have to kill this pot of enemies by the journal for 50 Geo. That's routed in. And it also makes just collecting the journal much safer and easier. Alright, CakeSauce skips the enemies on the bottom of King Station. I believe we will see fireb0rn do the same, so both runners are going to have to do extra Geo farming later on. 55 is what we see on CakeSauce's side. fireb0rn will probably have 65. Neither number is close to enough for what you need. Really want to have around maybe 90 at this point if you want it to be done. Yep, so we see them pick up a journal, we see them pick up a seal, they'll get another seal at Watcher Nights, as well as the 655 Geo chest, and also going to kill Gorgeous Husk here for 420 Geo. And all of that will add up to just enough Geo to open King Station by Lantern, and after killing a couple of Devouts and Beast Den, this will get them to open Distant Station and make their way home. So when I talk about tightness of the Geo route, there really isn't any concern that you're going to get to Lantern and not be able to buy it. Really the fear is that you're going to be stuck in Beast Den 15 minutes from now, be looking at your Geo counter and really wishing that you were not where you are. Only a few seconds lost, though, if they make any mistakes in the Geo route. Alright, so you see CakeSauce kind of forcing himself into the corner there to hit the lever through the floor. This is a skip exclusive to the 1221 version. That is the second version of Grim Troop, and the last version before the Lifeblood update. So this is maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 versions by current patch, but because this lever skip and a bunch of other speedrun glitches were removed, we play on the older patch. Alright, fireb0rn falling down a bit at the lever skip. but gets through pretty easily on a second try, so that's good. Meanwhile, CakeSauce starting the Watcher Knights fight. This is probably the most difficult boss fight of the run simply to complete, and it is also very difficult to optimize. So really, in CakeSauce's position, we're going to see him probably trying to survive first. The second round got a little out of hand, so getting an optimal Watcher Knights fight is no longer really feasible. A lot of this fight is praying for good RNG and responding to every possible pattern you can get out of them. Yeah, 4 HP is really good on his side to be going into the final round with. Yep. One thing you may have already noticed is CakeSauce doing this little trick where he jumps behind a boulder as it's rolling on the ground and shoots a fireball just as it goes past him, and it hits 2 or 3 times. Not exactly optimal TPS, because ideally the boulder would be right there and you could just keep on wailing on it with the nail. But it really is a very nice and efficient way to respond to them rolling across the screen away from you. Alright, fireb0rn also finishing. Yeah, he's definitely still behind CakeSauce, I think, because of that little movement error. Still very close. Let's see. Since CakeSauce is at the lead, the halfway point, I think we'll switch to his audio. Yeah, fireb0rn definitely caught up a lot on Watcher Knights. CakeSauce didn't have a terrible fight, but he got the Watcher Knights separated, and really the best way to maximize your damage in that fight is to have them overlapping each other, so every nail hit and every fireball hits both. Yep, so looks like CakeSauce is about 20 geo short of where he wants to be. fireb0rn, meanwhile, has much more than he will ever need in this run. So, could see CakeSauce lose a bit of time having to farm here. City of Tears being the best place remaining in the run to pick up, a few dozen geo. So this section of the run really a bit calm after all of the movement and really prowess the runners had to demonstrate entering city and fighting Watcher Knights. We will see things heat up again once they get into Crystal Peak. A lot of required damage boosts and reasonably precise movement to get through there. And in fact, we've already seen a number of Crystal Peak deaths in the tournament. So definitely we'll be hoping for both runners to get through there unscathed and maybe do a few notable tricks, which chat will be cheering for, I'm sure. Yeah, CakeSauce didn't farm Geo. I would imagine his plan is just to get the Geo node after Hera. Takes maybe less than 3 seconds, and it'll give him more than enough. Really isn't a huge issue. It's all about where you choose to farm it. Farming in city only takes 0.6 seconds by comparison, but it isn't always practical, depending on enemy spawns. All right, CakeSauce managing the extremely difficult trick of buying Lantern. Sometimes runners get enticed by the Mask Shard or the Rancid Egg for sale. They just can't control their hands. It's happened. It's always very sad, but we just have to understand. All right, CakeSauce entering one of the hardest rooms in the game. This is one of the only infected crossroads rooms we'll ever see, and CakeSauce does it perfectly. But just know that if anything goes wrong in that room, there's going to be 3 infected Vengeflies on top of you, doing everything in their power to murder you. It looks like fireb0rn also getting that room perfectly. That's really good because, as I mentioned before, health is a premium resource, basically an unlimited number of damage boosts in this area you can do to save time. And CakeSauce faking us out, and faking us out a couple times. That room was maybe not as optimal as he would have liked. fireb0rn also faking us out. There will be no unnamed pogoing skips on either side. There is a way to do that room on the right. It is not... It was originally thought to be a lot less consistent than it may or may not actually be. But either way, I will not shame the runners for playing within their abilities, as fireb0rn gets a very nice god pixel, as it's called. There's a little area between the crawler and its laser. And so if you jump right up that pixel, you can squeeze through undamaged, and it saves not a ton of time, less than a second, but it feels very good. All right, CakeSauce entering the laser gauntlet of the Crystal Heart room. It does put him on 1 HP, so any mistake will result in death. And he does go under the platform anyways. Very nice on his side. fireb0rn, with a much stronger HP count, really has nothing to fear, even if he were to take a double whammy on the last platform. So yeah, CakeSauce had a slightly slower Crystal Heart split in general, and so that does allow fireb0rn to catch up. They will be even, or just about even, maybe even fireb0rn a few seconds ahead going into the Umu split. And so that means that Umu will be deciding for us. And really, what would a Hollow Knight speedrun be without Umu deciding? As CakeSauce takes an unusual route through the Gross Drop room, it is 100% consistent down the middle if you just get the timing right. But, there's no substitute for a clean fall, so the more power to him for getting through there without damage. Yeah, fireb0rn really showing the practice late game movement here. And so that is helping him claw back little seconds in every room. This half-second optimizations I was talking about earlier really make a difference. 30 to 60 half-second optimizations are the difference between a PB and a world record, some people have said. All right, so CakeSauce entering the Umu fight from the right, fireb0rn entering from the left. Left side being about 0.6 seconds faster. If you do the deboost with fireb0rn's method that he just showed, it's only 0.3 seconds faster. Still, just a tiny little bit of time save entering this. So the key with Umu is you can't take damage until Quirrell shows up and pops Umu open. And so the goal is to get him embedded into this bottom platform so we can deal 150 damage, the very precise sequence of nail hits and fireballs. Any mistake during that sequence will cost the 2 cycle. I believe both runners got the damage cycle off though. Ooh, but CakeSauce is gonna be too high, I think. Yep, CakeSauce missing the 2 cycle, as does fireb0rn. So Umu has decided not to decide. But yes, so it may seem like Quirrell is just waiting on a timer or something, but actually it's movement based. After every attack, Umu moves a random amount, and once Umu moves far enough, Quirrell will spawn. Unfortunately, that leads to some randomness where Umu can give extra attacks, Umu can give slower attacks. Very frustrating boss fight with a lot of RNG and a lot of memorization required. So getting 3 cycles on both ends, not very surprising, and really shouldn't be disappointing for the runners either. What that means is that all the pressure in the world is going to be on the 2 of them entering QGA. In the next split, we do have to get into Queen's Gardens. I'll switch back to fireb0rn. Do have to get into Queen's Gardens in order to get to get to Deep Nest as fast as possible. And so that's going to involve an acid skip like the one they did to get into Fog Canyon, only significantly more precise. That acid skip is slightly on a timer because you only have, every time you fail it, you're going to fall into the acid. And refilling soul in Fog Canyon, notoriously difficult. That's a good point. CakeSauce could be doing Deep Nest Route, since I believe he said in Discord before that he was only planning on doing it once he was in 35 range, but look at his side of the stream. Oh, he had a perfect height on the wall, but he decides to stop the C dash early to set up the wall jump with the dash. Gets it second try, fireb0rn gets it first try. That's going to put fireb0rn even further ahead, probably close to 12 to 15 seconds. And we are not out of the clear yet either. Queen's Gardens, a very late game area by design, and so these arenas, the movement in here, it's all very precise and punishing for their lack of items. Fortunately, fireb0rn just has 2 more rooms here. This is the less difficult room, really, and he's handling it perfectly. Any luck, CakeSauce, he takes a safety heal. I think he should be fine. Yeah, the hard part about this room that CakeSauce is still in is that a lot of times if you dash into an enemy or something, you'll have no way to recover midair, then you'll land in the thorns and take even more damage. But yeah, fireb0rn showing that he has practiced this movement enormously. CakeSauce a bit more unfamiliar, clinging on a few unnecessary walls, trying to safely find his way through, and that's the right call when you aren't fully confident, and he will still save time for taking the QG route. But every time you see that little hesitation, that's a second going into fireb0rn's pocket. At this point, if you're CakeSauce, you are hoping that that 3 HP counter on fireb0rn's side comes back to bite him. And bear in mind that fireb0rn very much not in the clear here. Beasten, an incredibly difficult area, can be practiced, still has RNG, can still bite you if you clench on the controller too hard, mess up your devout damage boosts. So the way the devouts work, they have this mask which protects them from damage. You can hit the mask to open them, then you get recoil, which prevents you from doing much damage. So instead, the runners will wait for the devouts to open, then dash into them to get iframes through their attack. The devout's body does 1 damage, its pincers do 2 damage. So you really do want to, as fireb0rn goes down to 1 HP, you really do want to get that deboost off in order to do it safely. Alright, fireb0rn through the worst part of the gauntlet, kills the grub. Very sad and disappointing. And now he's on to the final devout. Ooh, plays it safe. Sort of. Though to be honest, skipping the deboost, I would say is almost scarier, because sometimes you can mess up the dash and end up having your safe play cost you. fireb0rn gets through. CakeSauce just a little ways behind, and probably no more than 25 to 30 seconds, I would guess. But CakeSauce did rescue the grub, so he will be the hero in our hearts. But at this point, it is just down to Hollow Knight. fireb0rn does still have the ability to eke out a high 34, and CakeSauce should absolutely be on PB pace, excuse me, PB pace if he has a good Hollow Knight. So from this time that CakeSauce's timer is paused on, a perfect last split would be 318. Ooh, and he doesn't quite farm optimally by breaking the platform first, and has to get the second Geonode. That's really unfortunate. But yeah, so definitely the potential for a nice 35 there on CakeSauce's side. But of course, it's all contingent on not dying to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight, not quite as hard as Watcher Knights, but still difficult in its own way. Okay, chat correcting my comment from before. CakeSauce's current PB is a 3615, and he gets a Mender Bug spawn going into Hollow Knight. That is a 2% spawn if you previously broke the sign. And really, after a Mender Bug appearance, there can only be one possible outcome. CakeSauce has been cursed. He's going to die to Hollow Knight. That's okay, though. We can have some sad emotes in the chat, and maybe, just maybe, that will take the curse. Alright, so you just saw Hollow Knight did a dash for fireb0rn, and this really precise setup. You jump over to Hollow Knight and release the fireball at the last possible second to get a double hit off. Not perfect DPS on Hollow Knight, really want him to just stand there and let you hit him, just like Watcher Knights, but the dash is the next best thing. What you really never ever want to see is his parry attack, because you can't damage him, and if you do try to hit him, you get a guaranteed counterattack, which wastes a lot of time. As fireb0rn does showcase that you do have just enough time to let off a parry after a parry of your own after hitting Hollow Knight's parry, and so you can just walk through him with the parry iframes. Yeah, don't blame fireb0rn at all for healing. As long as he just plays this part safe and doesn't take unnecessary damage, he will have this race in the bag, I think. And just barely misses the scream skip. What you want to do is to be positioned just above Hollow Knight before that final roar, so that once it begins and you lose control, you fall into the Hollow Knight, and taking damage when you have lost control immediately gives it back to you, lets you get about 5 seconds of DPS off on Hollow Knight when he cannot respond. Alright, CakeSauce, a little risky on the health, but and he goes for a poor setup for Scream Skip. You cannot get Scream Skip by dashing into Hollow Knight like that, unless you try to take 2 hits. And so all that would do is lose health for him. Really unfortunate. But he does get Hollow Knight down. This is going to be a very low, I believe. And he heals just a bit too early with soul left on the meter. I believe this will be a PB for CakeSauce, which is really awesome. All right, so with that, both runners are finished. And I believe fireb0rn is going to come in for an interview.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How does it feel?
Um,
maybe a bit of a de-rust, but still, a win is a win, right?
yeah, I was mostly happy with how it went. There was just like some parts where I made some super dumb mistakes, but otherwise it was all right, I guess.
And hello to CakeSauce as well. I don't know if you were watching the stream, fireb0rn. The two of you were neck and neck through the first half of the race. CakeSauce playing out of his mind to get a race PB.
Oh, that's awesome.
Real
How'd the
PB
run go,
too.
dude?
Yeah, a real PB in a race, I should say.
Went really well. I
Nice.
had a good run.
I got yesterday I got a 33, so I was like I came in with high expectations, like I was just doing a no reset, and then it kind of fell apart, but I'm like mostly happy with how it went.
Yeah, I mean, execution-wise, you take out the little mental slip where you didn't take the Salubra bench, and you probably, this is still a low 34, so
yeah,
that shouldn't cast too much of a pallor on the time. Meanwhile, Cake, was this your first run with Queen's Gardens route?
My second. My PB before this actually took Queen's Garden, but then I lost like 50 seconds or something on it, so I actually lost 10 seconds over doing Deep Nest route because I completely fell apart in the Mantis.
Oh no.
This run, everything went perfectly. It's like I got QGA second try, and then Mantis Arena, all 3 of them died within my first 3 fireballs. It was like, okay, cool.
Nice.
It went smoothly. So
yeah, it was a really unusual sight to see, getting QGA and the arena so easily, and then, hugging the wall going through Deep Nest to avoid the spikes.
Yeah, I don't know that area too well yet.
Yeah, I absolutely commend you for doing that, because hitting the spikes loses so much time that it's absolutely the right call. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so.
What time did you get, Cake?
36:05.
Nice.
Missed
Tough,
the
dude.
sub 36 just barely. My Hollow Knight fight. I got the. I don't know what if you have a name for like the attacks, but Hollow Knight, he did his parry like a whole bunch of times in the
Oh,
first two
no.
phases. And then he did the thing where he goes up in the air and he bounces down and chases you around. And so like I missed a ton of damage. I couldn't get the
Yeah.
attacks where you can deal a lot. I didn't get very many double hits either. I think he only charged me twice. So it was kind of
Oh,
a sloppy fight. I think I could have gotten it with a better Hollow Knight.
Yeah, the parries really kill your time.
They really do. And learning how to punish the attacks that you actually can get good damage on, it really does take a lot of investment.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so your run went pretty well, fireb0rn. I heard you missed a bench. Is that what I heard when I first joined the call?
Yeah, it's actually something I do every single time I do Rust. Is I forget to bench when I leave Saluber's hut,
Oh man,
and of course I did it in the race.
where does that put you? Back at is that back at
Mound.
Baldur's Mound?
Yeah, back in the mounds.
So actually, that was a lead change. I believe it was CakeSauce was a little ahead going into VS.
Yeah.
Then got baldered into oblivion,
No, no.
and so he was about 10 seconds behind at Grossmother. But he
That
got
was
a
re-
lead. You
Go
held,
ahead.
yeah, you held on to that lead fireb0rn gave you for a long time, CakeSauce. You were really, really putting on a solid show in City of Tears. So
Nice.
yeah, no shame in the loss at all.
No, I felt like I played really well. I think my early game didn't go so hot. I screwed up Vengefly King, and I had to go and collect all the Geo that's scattered everywhere. I missed my first fireball, and then I kind
Oh.
of got behind. My Hornet time wasn't very good, and I was like, I'm probably behind in the early game, but as long as I play well, and I did everything after that, I played about as well as I could have. So I feel I got beat fireb0rn. I knew I was going to lose to you. There was no way I was beating you today, but I'm happy about it.
Nice. I'm looking forward to see how you do in the lower bracket, dude.
Yep. So CakeSauce will be moving on to face Somnia, losers round 1 next week,
Okay.
and then
Nice.
fireb0rn advances to the winner of Time Sync and Tombo, which is this weekend.
Monkas.
You have a preference between the two?
I want to beat Time Sync, of course, so.
Everyone wants Time Sync. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. But
Yeah,
thanks
either
for
way,
coming.
good luck to you in the next race, fireb0rn. Hope you kick some butt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
you
for
too, man.
coming in for the interview. Great job to both.
Yep. GG's, guys. Thanks for
Yeah.
commentating, Hamathody.
Yep, no problem.
Shoutouts, dude.
All right.
Yeah, good games. Thanks for the commentary, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Yep. See y'all later.
See you guys.